19th element. Don't mean it ain't true. Just because you don't know it, don't mean it ain't true. That's the Chromonauts. That's my son's band, and that particular album won a Washington Area Music Award. So welcome, welcome. This is a special edition of the 19th Element. I'm your host, Dr. Alim Muhammad, and trying to get back in the saddle, getting back on schedule. And so we're using a different format than per usual. And we just want to see if that improves the quality of our podcast. I get complaints all the time. Why don't you improve your broadcast? Well, it's just me. I'm the light man, I'm the sound man, I'm the production engineer, and I'm the presenter. And so I do all the research and all of what needs to be done to produce. I do 4 podcasts a week, Sunday and Monday with prayer and fasting, and then the survival show in 2 parts, the Your Immunity Project on Tuesdays and the 19th Element on Wednesdays. And so this is the 19th Element, and we are kind of making a gear shift, not just in the format presentation, but also in the orientation. I think in the past, you've heard me say over and over again that the 19th Element is about geopolitical issues, war and peace issues, strategic issues, and all of that's true and was true and will remain to be true. But that was a little bit problem oriented, a little bit obsessed with what's wrong in the world, as opposed to while acknowledging the negativity that is certainly there, but at the same time there's a positive streak that is also beginning to appear. Behind every dark cloud, they say, is what? A silver lining. And so we're going to take a look at some of the silver lining and not forget about the dark clouds. So this is the 19th Element. I'm your host, Dr. Alim. And for the past 6 months, we haven't really had to change our theme. A world at war, a world going crazy, and a world going broke. And so you'll see from the headlines that we cover that is really true. Now, one of the positive aspects of what we're trying to do new is to introduce deliberative dialogue into our community so that we can have decent, rational, logical, problem-solving conversations about the things that affect us all, that are important to us all. And so deliberative dialogue is a process. It is a technique. It is a science. In fact, it corresponds exactly to the scientific method used in scientific laboratories around the world. It's the method of science. It also corresponds exactly to what philosophers talk about, the Socratic method for arriving at a higher understanding of truth. And so part of what we do with these podcasts is engender and encourage conversation, dialogue. How else shall a nation of gods rule itself if all are gods? Okay. How will you not abridge my godship? How shall I not abridge your godship? Well, the way it has been worked out for millennia, down through the ages, is through deliberative dialogue. And so it's not something new, it's just something that has to be rediscovered and relearned and then put into practice. And it will help to solve our problems because it engages the mind. It's collective thinking. Deliberative dialogue is collective thinking, collective problem solving. Yeah. There's an African proverb that says 2 heads are better than 1. Okay, well, how about when you get 12 or 24 or all of us, engaged in a process of deliberative dialogue? What problem can't we solve without getting in one another's way? Now, the backdrop to everything that's going on in the world today was foretold or predicted, if you will, by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Let the kings of the East dry up the river Euphrates. Well, don't you see them doing that? Don't you see that that's what Iran is doing with the Strait of Hormuz crisis, where all of the oil-producing nations in the Persian Gulf are unable to put their oil into the world market? and at least 20% of the world's oil comes through the Persian Gulf, now under the control of Iran. Donald Trump says that the Strait of Hormuz has to be open. It's open. It's open, but it's under the control of Iran. And so if you pass muster with Iran, the only thing they require is you not be an ally of Israel and America in their war against Iran. As long as you're not an ally of America and Israel, hey, you can pass freely through the Strait of Hormuz with your cargo. I mean, you pay a fee that's about 1.5% of the value of the cargo, $1 per barrel. Donald Trump said if he took control of the Strait of Hormuz, he was going to charge 20%. And so it makes it very clear to the nations of the earth who they should do business with. A schemer and a con man, a thief like Donald Trump, a pirate like Donald Trump, or some honest broker like the Islamic Republic of Iran. So the kings of the East are doing what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that they should do. Now this is from Muhammad Speaks. This was before I was in the nation. So this paper here, you see, is from the early 60s probably. And I don't know how clearly you could see that. But see, here's Europe, America, and England importing Israel into the Middle East to the consternation of the indigenous people, the Arabic people, the Palestinians. And then they find out to their chagrin that, hey, that's no baby. Israel's no baby. They're a conquering power in the region at the behest of America, joined at the hip with America. America was established through conquest. Isn't America a settler state? Didn't settlers come from Europe into North America and South America and settle? And as a part of the settling process, didn't they have to commit genocide against the indigenous people? Okay, well, that's all Israel is. It's a settler state of Europeans sent into Palestine by the British and the Americans and backed up by the British and the Americans to destroy the indigenous people, the Palestinians, the Arabs, and take it over and resettle it with themselves. And of course, it has a spiritual connotation because North America is one place, that's a wilderness. But when you're talking about the Holy Land, hey, that has a whole nother significance. So the kings of the East have dried up the river Euphrates and is about to take the world over an economic cliff into a global depression that the experts say will be worse than what happened in 1929 and 30. Now the other question that's being raised by current events is being whispered in the halls of Congress, whispered in the halls of the White House. Again, from an old Muhammad Speaks, asking the pertinent question that seemed kind of outlandish at the time. How about now? Will the Muslims attack America? Well, to answer that question, you have to say, well, certainly under the law of Islam, no Muslim could be the aggressor. So the Muslims would never attack America preemptively or in an aggressive manner. But you have to ask a follow-up question, will the Muslims attack America? Well, has America attacked the Muslims? Has America attacked the Muslims? Under a guise of a war against terror, as though all Muslims are terrorists. So if America has attacked Muslims, then Muslims are duty-bound to attack America. And so this is what we're hearing in the headlines, that after the funeral of the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who was a Muslim, was murdered by Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu and their allies, along with thousands of others in Iran martyred. So has America and Israel, in Europe and other nations, have they attacked Muslims? Well, if they have already attacked Muslims, then sure as the sun will rise tomorrow, then the Muslims will retaliate, because that is prescribed in the Holy Quran for Muslims. You can't let people murder you. You can't let people overcome you with force unless you resist. And if you resist, according to both the Bible and the Holy Quran, if you resist Satan, you will find that he is an ever weak opponent. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. And so that's what's going on. The Muslims are resisting the devil. Now, a lot of people didn't know the personal reality definition of the devil, but now they're seeing it very clearly. See, years and years ago when the crowds were in Azeri Square in Tehran chanting death to America, America the great Satan, Shaitan Akbar, chanting like that. Many people, they couldn't quite piece that together. Why would they call America Satan? Why would they call Israel Satan? Well, is there any doubt about that now? Doesn't everybody clearly see who the satanic people are, who the devilish people are, who the mischief makers are, who the bloodshedders are, who the berserkers are, who the destroyers are, who are the lawbreakers? I think it's very clear. And so it's all about Muslim is someone who submits to do the will of God. So it's not necessarily a sectarian term. See, you might not consider yourself or have ever considered yourself to be a Muslim, but if you are a righteous person who submits your will to do the will of God, you're by definition a Muslim, whether you call yourself that or not. So will you attack America because you are a righteous person? Or will you let these madmen, these lunatics, have their way? Look what the Quran says, Surah 2, verse 275. Those who consume interest. Now the Arabic word that's being translated there is riba. Riba means more than just interest, charging interest on money. It's more than usury. Riba means anything that's not fair, anything that's not on the level, anything that's a jib, anything that's a fraud, any type of injustice. That's riba. So the Quran asks the question, those who consume interest will stand on Judgment Day like those driven to madness by Satan's touch. So if you think Donald Trump is crazy, he's a lunatic, he's mad, he's being driven insane, hey, the Quran supplies you the answer. Has Donald Trump ever engaged in unfair dealings? Has he ever been guilty of riba? Oh, that's his whole career, isn't it? And look around Klaus Schwab, Joe Biden, Elon Musk, Zelensky over in Ukraine, the center of corruption for the whole world. So these and other monsters like them, they are certainly guilty of riba, and the telltale sign that they are the guilty ones on this day of judgment is, can't you notice that they are being driven insane, all of them? And every decision that they make is the decision of an insane person that is against their own interests. Don't you see that they're harming themselves, harming their own nations, harming their own societies, harming the entire world? Don't you see that they have mass homicidal, mass suicidal tendencies? Don't you see that they're living in a land of unreality? Don't you see the active hallucinations on a daily basis of Donald Trump? He lives in a fantasy world, driven mad. But yet he's the authority still over us. Now nature is also playing a part. Haven't you noticed the lack of hurricanes this season? Here we are in the middle of July, and there hasn't been a major hurricane, but there's one on the way now. See it? See it? It's on its way. Okay? And so natural disasters are happening all over the world. Earthquakes all over the world. Flooding all over the world. In Africa, in Asia. Wildfires taking place in Europe. Burning down forests all over the place. So natural catastrophes are a part of the background picture that we have to take into account. If this is the second part of the survival show, how prepared are you for natural disasters like hurricanes and tornadoes and earthquakes and power outages and other things that are occurring all over the world? Now, I'm not endorsing any particular brand, But one of the things that it occurs to me that most people overlook and forget is that your digital devices might go down when the grid goes down. Well, that's not a might. They will go down. And so when the grid goes down and your cell phone no longer works and none of your digital devices work any longer, then how will you communicate? How will you stay in touch with the world? Well, one of the things that you need to have is a worldwide radio. So again, I'm not endorsing any particular brand. I'm just pointing out the obvious fact that communication is going to be a part of your survival need. And you need a shortwave radio. Now let's take a little look back about 100 years in history. This is the great Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and he proposed a program. He had a program that he proposed more than 100 years ago. And these are some excerpts from his program. Now, of course, he came to his own, and his own received him not. So part of the tragedy of our current situation and condition today is that it would have been much better if we had followed the program of Marcus Garvey. Just as we could say the same about the programs of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We would be much better off if we had continued to follow his programs. And even up to date, it would be better. Our condition would be better if we had employed and will employ the 9 ministries. We could improve our condition overnight if we did that. But look what Marcus Garvey had to say more than 100 years ago. The UNIA, the Universal Negro Improvement Association, was brought into being for the purpose of helping to develop the financial condition of our people and placing us in a position of control. Then he goes on to list certain industries, which many correspond to the 9 ministries. If every division of the UNIA all over the world, with 1,000 members in each division, would carry out this system, do you know what would happen? In the space of 2 years, the parent body would be able to control between $1 billion and $2 billion. Now this is 100 years ago, when money really meant something, when the dollar was backed by gold. We could force legislation. We could force legislation. We could do anything. If you develop a strong financial power, you will control the politics of the country. This is Marcus Garvey speaking. You will control legislation. And if you can control legislation, you will control the government, and you will get all that you want. You will get all that you want. That's what politics is all about. Politics is how you decide who gets what. If you don't play politics, you don't get nothing. If you know how to play politics, then you get what you want. And Marcus Garvey laid out a blueprint of how you get what you want. We didn't follow it, but some people did. I pointed out, why does Marcus Garvey wear a Star of David here? He got a Star of David on his lapel. So he actually gave the Zionists their program. Everything that Marcus Garvey said that we should do as black people, we didn't do it, but who did do it? The Zionist Jews, the Zionist Christians. And they put together a financial power, and they started to control legislation, and they controlled enough legislation by now, and legislators buying them off. People complain about AIPAC. Well, hey, well, that's what he was calling the UNIA. It would have been the UNIA buying off congressmen and senators and governors and presidents. We would be stuffing the pockets of politicians with hundreds of millions of dollars to steer their campaigns in the direction that we wanted it to go. That's if we wanted to play this dirty politics like it's played in America, following the program of Marcus Garvey. But the Zionists did it. We didn't do it. They did it. Maybe they called him Black Moses for a reason, because he had the Star of David on his lapel. Now, I had mentioned in passing in a lecture a few weeks ago that you will not be admitted into the hereafter if you owe this world. And people say, I never heard that before. I never heard that taught before. Well, there's a lot that you haven't heard taught before that you need to hear taught. But this is one of those things that's very crucial. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was adamant that his followers pay off their debts. Because if you still owe this world, then you cannot go into the hereafter because you have to be free. Debt is slavery. So any debt that you have is enslaving you. And so the hereafter is about freedom, justice, and equality. So a slave to debt and the oppression of men, we say that prayer 6 times a day. You see, you won't make it into the hereafter owing people. So you got to pay your debts so that you're a free man, a free woman. Then when it's time to inhabit the hereafter, then you're free to go. But if somebody has a claim on you, hey, well then you have to stay until you can redeem yourself. You see, I mean, you have to get down to brass tacks. We have to get down to the reality of our actual condition. Most of us are not free. Most of us are wage slaves, which is just 1 degree above a chattel slave. So pay your debts so that you are qualified to enter the hereafter. Now here's why America today is a slave nation. He who's led into captivity shall go into captivity. So look at America today, captive. Captive in the hands of beasts. The 4 beasts of the apocalypse. The 4 beasts that ate America. Again, back 100 years ago. We're back to 1914 again. With the creation of the Anti-Defamation League of B'nai B'rith. The creation of the FBI. The creation of the Federal Reserve Bank. The creation of the IRS. Brought in by a corrupt president, Woodrow Wilson, who did as he was commanded because he was being blackmailed under a sex scandal, just like Donald Trump is being blackmailed under a sex scandal with the Epstein files. So he's doing all kinds of things contrary to the interests of the country, contrary to the interests of the American people. But just like Woodrow Wilson ran on a peace ticket. He ran on a peace ticket saying that he would keep America out of World War I. And what is the first thing that he did once he got in office and betrayed the country with the Anti-Defamation League, instituting the federal income tax with the IRS, giving currency control to private bankers with the Federal Reserve Act, and to investigate anybody that wasn't compliant, set up a national police force to survey and investigate and harass Americans, called the FBI. All of them private institutions, private corporations, owned by private shareholders, and you're not one of them. So these are the 4 beasts that have destroyed America. When we learned that the term given to America was up in 1914, some of us said, how could that be true? Well, take a look at the history of the last 100 years. And look at the destruction of America, the ravaging of America, the wholesale destruction of America. That's why Trump's call to make America great again was so appealing, because the average American knows that America has been destroyed from the inside out. And all of them have been plagued by all of these institutions. So this is what happens when you get elected to high office. On day 1, whether you're the president, whether you're a senator, whether you're a governor, whether you're a congressman, or you're a mayor over a large city or something, hey, the men in black pay you a visit. The men in black show up on day 1 and they give you your agenda. See, this is what happened to Trump his first term. This is from his first term. As soon as he took office, he thought about what he gonna do. Oh no, the men in black show up. They're from the Shabbat. And they're going to give Mr. Trump his agenda. Because actually they represent the people that put up all the money that put you in office, Mr. Trump, Mr. Congressman, Mr. Governor. See, the men in black, they're international. See, people say, why doesn't Vladimir Putin do more than what he's doing? Well, the men in black visited him when he got elected into office. The men in black, they operate in Russia too. They operate all over the world. And they control the politicians and the leaders of countries, the leaders of legislators, judges over courts. They get visits by the men in black. And they make offers that cannot be refused. A lot of time, depending on your level of, or rank in office, see, they lay down a bank book on your desk. Here, Mr. President, congratulations on your new election. And you open up the bank book has your name on it. And there's $5 million in a Swiss account. Well, you didn't open that account. You don't know anything about it, but there it is. It exists. It's in your name. And there's $5 million in it. They made it an offer that you can't refuse. Because if you turn it down, then what? They'll expose the bank book and show that you had a Swiss bank account all along. So this is what they do to politicians at every level. And they exercise control. And then if they go along with the agenda, then they reward them because they control the banking system. They control the currency. They just print money in the basement and give it to politicians. You know, there was a little hope with Trump being elected because he was already rich. That made him less immune, more immune to being bribed. You know, like poor people like Barack Obama get elected to high office. Hey, how could he resist the bribes? How could he resist the men in black? Now, popular history has it that the Nazis lost World War II. That's what I learned in school. How about you? Didn't you learn that the Allies defeated Hitler and the Nazis in World War II? And that freedom and democracy prevailed? Didn't you hear that? And all the movies that show you the same thing? But actually, when you look at the actual facts, I kind of differ than I think the Nazis must have won. I think the Nazis must have won. Because number one, all of the top Nazis, even Hitler can't really be accounted for. Some people say he didn't really get killed. He didn't really die. Some people say he went to Argentina. Some people say he was hiding out in Antarctica. They have secret bases in Antarctica and they were flying UFOs and all kinds of stuff. And then all of the top scientists that the Nazis had, they were divided up between the Soviet Union, the United States, and the British. So who was the head of America's space program? Werner von Braun, a top Nazi scientist. And so you see, when you look around, you see all of the policies that were carried out by the Nazis. It seems like those same policies are still being carried out by people who claim to be democratic. Actually, when they asked the Nazis, where did they get their racial theory from? They said, from the Americans. We got that in America. We learned that over there in America. And we brought it in and we Germanized it. And they call us Nazis. They call them Americans. But it's the same philosophy, white supremacy, white Aryan supremacy. That's what it's all about. And so that's what Nazism is. They can call it Zionism if they want to, but it's just another form of Nazism. You can tell a skunk, you know, by the stench it bears. Now here's a skunk, Palantir. We've mentioned this a lot of times. Palantir, of course, is the crystal ball or the all-seeing eye that was in the Lord of the Rings trilogy that Sauron used to spy on people. Well, that's what this New World Order, the deep state they call it, is using to spy on you and me, Palantir. It's connected to Starlink satellites, all kinds of surveillance cameras all over the place, and is, of course, as deeply embedded as artificial intelligence, digital intelligence that I call Dajjal. The Arabic form or the Muslim name for the Antichrist is Dajjal, which sounds like digital to me. Digital intelligence, Antichrist intelligence, everything contrary to moral law, ethical law, even human law, international law, criminal law. And so Palantir was awarded great contracts by all these government agencies. Everything from the Air Force, the Marines, the Navy, the Department of Defense, the Department of Treasury, all of that is under the control of artificial intelligence directed by Peter Thiel of Palantir. Now, Peter Thiel is famous lately. He's been going around the world for the last 6 months giving lectures on the Antichrist. He even lectured to the Pope. So Palantir, the Antichrist, if you will, has taken control of the government. Who's running things? Do you think Donald Trump is actually running things? Did you think Joe Biden was actually running something? No, the government is actually being run by artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence. That's also true in Ukraine. That government is being run by artificial intelligence. It's an app called DIA, It's spelled D-double-I-A, Dia. And you can look it up on YouTube. Dia in Washington, D.C. That's what's running the government. Same in Israel. The government is being run by artificial intelligence. The military is being run by artificial intelligence. The targeting data is being done by artificial intelligence with all these satellite links and other data centers and links. And Palantir is at the center of it. Now here's something that everybody is talking about, the 14-point agreement between the United States, Memorandum of Understanding they call it, and Iran. Now, many people have questioned why would Iran negotiate with America and Donald Trump especially, and his two sidekicks, Jared Kushner and what's the other, whatever his name is, Whitner, whatever his name is. They're not even diplomats. They're business people. They're real estate mobsters. So people say, well, why would Iran even engage in negotiations with, such a motley crew, with such a dubious background, and who are notorious, for negotiating so-called in bad faith. But it's because they wanted to hold up that document. They forced Donald Trump to sign a document that essentially is a surrender document. And that's why people got mad at Donald Trump when he signed it. Because this memorandum of understanding, when you read it carefully, indicates that in this war between Israel, the United States against Iran, Iran emerges the victor. And there's the paper proof. See, it doesn't mean that Iran thought that U.S. was going to live up to the memorandum. I'm sure they didn't think they were actually going to live up to it. But the point was they got them to sign it. So now that is a document in writing that spells out in 14 clear points how Iran defeated the United States in war. And so this is from Tucker Carlson. He found out that Bibi Netanyahu was masquerading as Donald Trump. Or is it the other way around? They're one and the same. I call them Gog and Magog. So when Donald Trump, when Uncle Sam looks into the mirror, what does he see? He sees himself as Israel. Because they're one and the same. Two settler states based on genocide and slavery. Human rights abuses. Violation of international law. Violation of moral law. So what do you see when you look in the mirror? What do you see? See, now this is an updated version, an enhanced version of artwork from Muhammad Speaks again. See, Muhammad Speaks had great artists. Eugene Majid, Gerald 2X, he did cartoons. I think there was a brother, Robert 64X, used to do some artwork, and others too, but especially Eugene Majid. And he could capture in a picture what 10,000 words couldn't convey. So if you look at this picture from Muhammad Speaks, it tells you all you need to know about the two natures of the two people. They're not the same. They're not the same. So that's why I ask you, when you look in the mirror, what do you see? Do you see yourself as you are? Or do you see yourself as somebody else? But just look at that picture. You see? How do you compromise yourself to be in agreement with such evil, such wickedness, such debauchery, such savagery? How do you reconcile yourself? How do you say, I'm going to get along with this guy? I'm going to get along with this guy. We're going to be friends. Really? Really? Think about it. Now, part of what's going on has historical roots. See, on the 10th of Muharram, there was the martyrdom of Imam Hussein and his whole family and his companions in Karbala. And of course, this is the foundation of the Shia faith, the Shia branch of Islam. And so you saw 43 million Shia Muslims in mourning for the slain Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who basically represents the successor. He is actually the successor to Hussein, Imam Hussein, who was also martyred by the enemies of Islam. So you see the historical connection? Over the centuries, you see history has repeated itself. The martyrdom of the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and his family is a repeat of history. And it mobilized on the deepest level the masses of the people, even if their governments are not in sympathy with Iran. The mass of the people in the streets all over the world, not just in the Muslim world, but in one sense, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei became the spiritual leader of the entire world because his leadership of Iran stood up to the global tyrant, to the global bully, and stood him down. And he, you could say, paid with his life, but he was glad to do it. He was glad to be a martyr. And it's like Marcus Garvey said, you have sown the wind, but you will reap the whirlwind. So that's what's taking place now. America and Israel and the Western world that committed these atrocities against Iran and the Muslim world are now facing the whirlwind. See, it's not what you think sometimes. See, we're indoctrinated into thinking in terms of nation states. We think of Iran as a nation. We think of Iraq as a nation. America is a nation. Europe or Germany and Europe is a nation state. India is a nation. China is a nation. Well, that's true. That's true. But when you look at the area of Palestine in the Holy Land, what the British called the Middle East, those nation states are not natural nation states. See, a natural nation state would be a nation like China. It's a nation, but it's a nation that is built on the foundation of a civilization. See, India is a nation, but it's a nation built on the foundation of a civilization. The civilization existed long before the nation state was established. Similarly with Iran. Iran is a nation state, but it's built on the foundation of the Persian civilization. The same thing is taking place in parts of Africa now. You have Burkina Faso and Mali and other nations in that region. They're forming a unity together for mutual defense. And they are nation states born out of the colonial experience of the last 200 years. They were made nations by Europeans, just like the so-called Gulf states, Bahrain and Kuwait and Qatar, Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia. They were created as nation states by the British 100 years ago. And those so-called royal families were put in place by the British to be British agents, to govern on that land in the interest of the British. And then the Americans took over from the British after World War II and are the guarantors of the security of those so-called nation states. So although you have this official title of nation state and I'm the emir or I'm the king or I'm the president or I'm the prime minister, on the street it's a different reality. And so that's what's taking place all over the Muslim world now, where the true righteous teachers, the poor righteous teachers of Islam are exciting the people. They're preaching to the people and they're reminding them of their obligations as Muslims. And so they are rousing the masses of the people, regardless of the national state or the national identity. Because the identity that is being adopted by these people all over Palestine, all over the Holy Land, they're adopting the sole identity of Muslim. I'm Muslim. I'm not Jordanian. I'm not Syrian. I'm not Turkish. I'm Muslim. And as a Muslim, I have an obligation. And so that's what's taking place, an upswelling of the people around the world. And sometimes that flood will wash away these illegitimate governments in the twinkling of an eye. So most of them will disappear. You see? And because of the resolute stance of the Ayatollah, you see, the dirty rats and the filthy pigs of the world have been revealed. And how to handle them has been demonstrated. That they are not invincible, they can be destroyed, they can be conquered, they can be defeated, and they are being defeated. They are being humiliated, they have been driven out. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Yeah, in effect, destroyed the petrodollar. That's what Iran did, in partnership with China. So yeah, the Strait of Hormuz is open if you obey the rules. Now, if you go along with the outlaw America, hey, you're going to get in trouble. You're going to get fired upon. But if you go along with the rules that are now being set down, hey, you can get your oil and you can pass through the Strait of Hormuz, but no dollars, no U.S. Yankee dollars. Got to pay in Chinese money. And so that's what the fight is about. Because the American empire has been upheld for the last, 60 years on the basis of the petrodollar, forcing every country in the world to purchase dollars so they can purchase oil. And the U.S. military was standing by that if anybody violated that rule, it would blow them to smithereens. That's what happened to Saddam Hussein. That's what happened to Gaddafi, trying to sell oil outside the dollar. No, you don't. But they just did. So the petrodollar is over. So a lot of America's prosperity is over. Because now America has to pay for everything like everybody else with real money that has some backing. And people are questioning what exactly is backing the U.S. dollar. When Trump went down to Fort Knox, when he first got elected, he didn't report what he found in Fort Knox. Maybe because he didn't find nothing. There was nothing to report. No gold. Now look what's happening. See, one of the demands that Iran made from the very beginning was that the U.S. had to leave the region. The U.S. had to leave the region. They had to leave, and they left. Look at this. The IRGC pounds U.S. bases in Kuwait, Bahrain, and in new operations. So now, according to some experts that I've listened to, they said that America has 17 military bases in the region. All of them have been bombed. Some of them have been totally destroyed. No military bases anymore. They've been driven out. Now some say, well, and I've said it, well, what about Israel having the atomic bomb? Well, here's the head of the IRGC. What he says, however, in response, if Israel tried to use a nuclear weapon, or America, in response, we will launch direct strikes at the Dimona nuclear facility and other Israeli nuclear centers. For a country as small as Israel, this would result in a much more devastating collapse. The choice is up to the United States. Yeah, we're ready for either way. Take it any way you want. See, these are the military bases that have been wiped out. So if you're a soldier in the Middle East and your base has been wiped out, now where are you going to go to sleep tonight? Where are you going to get food tonight? How are you going to fuel your plane and your ship or your Jeep or your Humvee? All your communications are down. Your radar is down. Your air defense is down. Your infrastructure has been destroyed. Your runways have been pitted with bombs. Your hangars have been destroyed. Your drone reapers have been destroyed. Your fuel tankers have been destroyed. Now they say only 16 American soldiers have lost their life. Of course, they're lying, aren't they? How in the world could Iran destroy military bases and nobody gets killed, nobody gets hurt? You see, so when the true figures come out about the American casualties, it will be an overwhelming story because it's probably thousands of casualties so far. And every time America hits Iran, Iran hits back. And I was listening to A military analyst, Scott Ritter, he was pointing out. No, it was Larry Johnson. He said Iran only has 10 targets to hit. You know, the number of bases that they want to hit. It's a limited number. But in order for America to destroy Iran, do you know how big Iran is? Iran is as big as Western Europe. It's as big as the whole of Western Europe. So you can't conquer that. And so they've driven you out. America has been driven out of the Middle East. And the British allies, where they have bases, they also are under attack. So the British military base is under fire. So now if you're saying, well, why is all this madness going on? Well, I already pointed out, you know, the APAC, they took up Marcus Garvey's program, bought off all the politicians. So these are just some of the major politicians, you know, like Donald Trump, that have been paid off by APAC. And look who got the most. See, Donald Trump, he got $230 million from APAC. $230 million from APAC. Not to mention all of the other private donors that gave hundreds of millions of dollars to him. So he's a bought and paid for slave. He has to do what they tell him to do. And here's all the other ones, Hillary Clinton, Gavin Newsom, you know, all the big shots. Hey, who's this? This is Lindsey Graham. The APAC gave Lindsey Graham $1 million. No wonder he was out there running his mouth as a war hawk, putting Israel first before South Carolina and the United States. See, all of them are on the tape. Now, mentioning Lindsey, I call him Lindsey Graham, but his death was reported, and then the autopsy said that he had an aortic dissection. And so I just wanted to illustrate what that actually is. See, this is the aorta. This is the big blood vessel that emerges out of the top of the heart. It has all these branches that go off to the head and neck, and then on down. The blood is flowing like this, and on down, and supplies blood to the rest of the body. So it's the main artery, you could say, of the body. Now, if you have this is called the intima. This is the lining of the aorta, and all your blood vessels, they have a lining. If there's a break in that lining, then blood can flow into that space between the lining and the muscular layer that's there. And then that blood under pressure from the heart starts to dissect more and more of the intima away, and it becomes like a flap valve. See how that intima break would flap like that and block the flow of blood? And that's why he died, because that happened. Now, why would he have a tear in the intima of his aorta? Well, there's a lot of reasons why that could happen, but the most common reason that I'm familiar with is syphilis. To me, the first thing I thought about, this man must have syphilis. He must have had syphilis, because this is a complication of syphilis. You get an aortic dissection. So, I guess the blood cultures will come back and see whether he really did have syphilis or not. He sure had an aortic dissection. Now, Trump's plan to take over Latin America. You see, to make America great again, you have to conquer all these countries. And not just Venezuela and Colombia, and Ecuador and Panama and the nations of the Caribbean. You know, on the way to Venezuela, you got to pass Cuba. Hey, well, does he have his eyes on Jamaica? Does he have his eyes on all those islands down there? He has his eyes on Greenland. He has his eyes on Alberta, Canada. So in other words, he considers himself to be a conqueror. He's conquering new territory. He's trying to make America great again like it was before, when she was an imperial power. So will he succeed? Now all of the leaders are running scared. Look at the traitors in Lebanon. They got a traitorous government in Lebanon that does not represent the people at all. They've all sold out to Israel and America. And America has the biggest embassy in the world in Lebanon for some reason. And of course they're slaughtering the Lebanese people, the Israelis, with American weapons. They're Gazifying the southern Lebanon, destroying villages, whole towns, driving people out of their homes, creating havoc and misery. And so those leaders who have sold out the people in Lebanon and sided with Israel against their own people, Hezbollah. Hezbollah means the party of God. And so they're out to destroy and hunt down those traitorous leaders that sold them out. Donald Trump is calling an emergency because of the lack of fertilizer. It's not just oil that's not passing through the Straits of Hormuz, but fertilizer, essential for food production, is in short supply. So are you ready for famine? Now this is what they're telling the people in England, because they're faced even with a worse dire strait than Americans. England is barely hanging on. They don't have anything. They never did, except what they could steal. And so the Telegraph in England, the government in England is telling the people to stock up on food. Now they're trying to blame it on Vladimir Putin like he's responsible for the lack of food in England. Now this is a big breaking story. Turkey issues an international arrest warrant for Bibi Netanyahu. Now the thing about it is Turkey's within striking distance of Israel. They can march right down through Syria, right down through Lebanon, and they're right there at the doorstep of Israel, and they have the army to do it. Turkey has probably the strongest army in Europe, outside of Russia. And although it's a NATO ally, yet Turkey, once upon a time, was the head of the Muslim world, the Ottoman Empire. Now, the last Sultan of the Ottoman Empire abdicated in 1924. So the Muslims haven't had a leader in 102 years. So Erdogan, who is the leader of Turkey, or Turkey as they now say it, he has ambitions to become the Caliph of Islam. And he sees the rise of Iran on the other side, and he doesn't want them to take it, so he got to do something now. And the only thing that would legitimize his quest to become the leader of Islam in the modern age is he has to take on Israel. Will he do it? Now the Turks are brave fighters. Now look at this. This is Bibi Netanyahu's wife, Sarah. And she's requesting lifelong security protection. She fears for her life. I mean, I don't know what she's guilty of herself. She's just guilty of marrying Bibi Netanyahu. So that says a lot about her. And she wants protection for her sons so they don't get murdered. They're hiding out, her sons are hiding out in Miami. They're not on the battlefront now. No, they're not on the battlefront. They probably cut real estate deals down in Miami. And here's Marco Rubio. Now he was on that list of AIPAC donors. I think they gave Marco Rubio over $1 million. And now he's the Secretary of State and the National Security Advisor to Donald Trump. So he's largely responsible for all of these irresponsible decisions that are being made. These disastrous outcomes are largely due to him. He's behind the tragedy in Venezuela. And if Trump wants to take over all those other Latin American countries, hey, Marco Rubio envisions himself to be the Governor General, of Latin America. He wants to be the ruler of Cuba. But look what he's doing. He's using his authority as the Secretary of State to try to destroy the International Criminal Court that just indicted Bibi Netanyahu and members of the Israeli government. And of course he knows that an indictment with his name on it is on the way. An indictment with Donald Trump's name on it is on the way. An indictment with all of the criminals that have participated in the genocide in Gaza and in Lebanon and in the West Bank. All of them are war criminals. And of course, if Bibi goes down, then the rest of them know they're going down too. So he's fighting like hell to stay out of court himself. The bill that just handed Israel the keys to the U.S. military. We talked about this last night on the Your Immunity Project. Yeah, a merger between the U.S. and Israeli militaries. Well, I pointed out that maybe they're just passing a law about it, but the reality has been that way for a long, long time. What is the Israeli military without the U.S. weapons? Everything that they use is made in America. And I pointed out that the top general in Israel is an American. His name is Carrillo. It sounds like gorilla, spelled with a K, Carrillo, General Carrillo. He's in Tel Aviv right now in the war room, directing Israeli forces. You know, they got boots on the ground in Israel. I showed another headline last night. Trump wants to move the U.S. military bases that Iran just destroyed. He wants to move all of them into Israel. Well, that's all Israel ever was anyhow. It was just a military base for America to bomb the Muslims, to depopulate Islam. Now here's some good news. See, everybody thinks about nuclear power in one way because a decision was made after World War II, or during World War II, to develop nuclear power around uranium. And the reason that decision was made was because uranium, not only could it produce, safe, peaceful nuclear power for civilian uses, but it could also be used to make a bomb. And not only that, the byproduct of radioactive uranium is another radioactive element called plutonium that makes an even more powerful bomb. So that's why they decided to go with uranium instead of thorium and other radioactive elements. Any of those radioactive elements could have been used to make a nuclear reactor, but you couldn't make a weapon with thorium. You couldn't make a nuclear bomb with thorium. You can't have a nuclear meltdown with thorium. You have nuclear power, but if anything goes wrong, it just shuts itself down. It's the safest radioactive element known. But they never developed it for nuclear power because it couldn't be used to make bombs. Now China is reversing that trend. So you could see the spread of nuclear power all over the world using thorium as a safe nuclear fuel. The other problem, of course, with uranium is what do you do with the radioactive waste? And so with thorium, that's also not a problem. So new technology is taking place. Now Americans are being deprived of the benefit of most of that new technology. We're stuck with the old. We got stuck with old internal combustion engine cars. If you go to China, everything's electric, and they have so many great features, and the prices are very, very cheap. Now this is the mountain. They call it Pickaxe Mountain. Pickaxe Mountain. That's where the Iranians say they have their nuclear facilities. So this is the mountain that Trump thinks he's going to blow up tonight. So last night I presented, an appeal for. I think I had this out of order here. No. Let me see here. Yeah. Just to remind you and update you, we did a national opinion poll about the 9 ministries, and the overwhelming support caused us to convene a Congress of deliberative dialogue on those 9 ministries, because it's time for us to do for self. Now every time I see this picture, see, that's what China looks like today. If you went to China today, you would see buildings just like that. You would see flying machines, all kinds of things. They have a building that they're building. It's called the biggest building in the world. It's huge. It's huge. It looks like it's from another world. You see? So it's about time for us to start doing for ourselves, like the Chinese and the Indians and the Iranians and the Africans. Everybody's doing for self now and trying to get out of the oppression and the debt, slavery to these other people. So it's time for us to do for self. So we did the National Congress. We had presentations on the 9 ministries. This was part of my presentation in Health and Human Services. I can't have a virtual hospital. We don't have a hospital, but I can have a virtual platform. So if you have a problem, you need some help, get in touch with me, Dr. Alim at protonmail.com. And we have protocols for simple problems that aren't too complicated. We use the system survey for a more detailed diagnosis. It's about 200 questions. You just answer those that apply to you. And then I interpret that and help to find out what program of nutrition is going to actually help solve your issues. And then the ultimate, of course, is the autonomic response test that I used to do in person. They called it muscle testing. Now with photographs, I can do the same thing with the same accuracy. So get in touch with me. through my email right now until the website is done. So that's Dr. Alim at protonmail.com. So you need some help, tell me about it. Now what's going to happen as we close out tonight's program, having had the July the 4th Congress of Deliberative Dialogue, I would count it as a fantastic success. We had room for 27 presenters. We didn't quite have that number, so there were some empty slots. But for the most part, we achieved our goals. Now the shortcoming was that because we had so many presenters, they were only given 10 minutes to present, which is hardly enough time, to say anything in depth. So they didn't. None of them said anything in depth because they didn't have the time. So now, between now and September the 21st and 22nd, the autumnal equinox, that gives us about 9 or 10 weeks where we can have, maybe on a weekly basis, the schedule hasn't been worked out yet, but maybe on a weekly basis, we'll have a Ministry of Agriculture program, a half a day or a whole day devoted to nothing but the Ministry of Agriculture. And then we can have as many presentations as there are and give you 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, as much time as you need to make your full presentation. So then as the weeks go by, we'll go through all of the different 9 ministries, with in-depth presentations. So that by the time we arrive at September the 21st and 22nd, by the way, that's the date when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad met Master Farad Muhammad in Detroit in 1931. So in September, under the sign of the Virgin, Virgo, the sign of the Virgin. So here's the Virgin meeting the bridegroom in Detroit, September 1931. And so we want to commemorate that date. And perhaps over these 9 or 10 weeks that we have until then, we can hear in-depth presentations in each of the 9 ministry areas so that we have a better idea of where we really are and what we have to work with and who we have to work with. Excuse me. So that's the plan going forward to increase the depth of our understanding and the breadth of our understanding of these 9 ministries. So this was the invitation on the 4th of July. It says, "Dear brothers and sisters, please be advised that your presence and participation is desired." So that's what we're talking about. You probably have something that you should present. You should make a presentation. You should do one. What good idea did you have? What bright idea do you have for progress and success of us as a people? Think about it and see where you would fit in according to the structure of the 9 ministries. You see, and then maybe you will volunteer yourself to make a presentation to the rest of us so we can get the benefit of your thoughts and your ideas and share in your vision of a better future for ourselves as a people. I think that, that's more about that storm on the way. Here's what somebody sent me about the Corporation Holdings Trust. Yeah, that's going to be a great presentation. You see, we have to build trust, and everything that is done according to divine law is under the law of trust. And so we need to find out what trust economics is all about, so we will have the capacity to handle the great blessings that are on the way. Remember, we afflicted for 400 years, and that certainly has come to pass. But then God himself says, "I will come and deliver you with great substance." So we have to have the structure to receive the great substance. Remember, we couldn't handle the $1 billion that Gaddafi wanted to give us because we didn't have the structure to handle $1 billion. And so we have to develop the structure to handle the blessings that are on the way. So I think that's all I'm going to show you tonight. That's all we want to talk about. And we want to remind you to be with us on Sunday and Monday with prayer and fasting. And then once again next week on Tuesday and Wednesday, the Euro Unity Project on the 19th element. Let's go out with the promenade.